The morning sun had barely crested the horizon when Emily Carter jolted awake to a sound she couldn't place: a deep, guttural rumble that brat through the floorboards of her modest suburban home. She rubbed her eyes, groggy from a late night spent hunched over encrypted files, and stumbled to the kitchen window. Her breath caught in her throat. 3 cement trucks loomed at the edge of her property, their engines growling like beasts ready to pounce. Workers in neon vests swarmed her front yard, driving stakes into the soft earth where her meticulously tended tulips and lavender had thrived for years. A bulldozer roared to life, its blades slicing through her garden with surgical precision, leaving a trail of uprooted flowers and churned soil in its wake. "What the hell?" Emily muttered, her voice hoarse with disbelief. She threw open the front door and charged outside, barefoot and still in her faded pajama pants. The morning dew soaked through the fabric, chilling her legs as she waved her arms at the workers. "Hey, stop that right now. This is my property." A man with a clipboard glanced up, his expression indifferent. "Ma'am, we have authorization. Please step back for your safety." "Authorization from who?" Emily's voice cracked as she watched the bulldozer obliterate the last of her rose bushes. She'd spent countless weekends coaxing those plants to life, a quiet rebellion against the sterile order of Pinewood Estates, her sleepy neighborhood in Northern Virginia. From the Pinewood Estates Homeowners Association came a clipped reply from behind her. Emily spun around to find Linda Grayson, the HOA's unofficial dictator, standing there in a crisp blazer and heels, looking far too polished for 7 a.m. Linda's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Section 19.4 of the Covenant grants us access for community enhancements. Enhancements? Emily gestured wildly at the wreckage of her garden. "You're turning my yard into a war zone." Linda's gaze remained steady, unyielding. The board voted unanimously. "Your corner lot is the ideal spot for our new security outpost. It's for the good of the neighborhood." "Security outpost?" Emily's stomach twisted. "Nobody told me about any vote. I didn't get a single email." Linda inspected her manicured nails with exaggerated nonchalance. "Notices went out last month. It's not my fault if you ignore HOA communications." Emily yanked her phone from her pocket, scrolling through her inbox with trembling fingers. Nothing. No meeting notices, no construction plans, no mention of a vote. There was no notice, Linda. "You can't just—" "Oh, but I can." Linda tapped her tablet and thrust it toward Emily, displaying a scanned document. "Your signature, right here, from when you bought this house 4 years ago. Page 47, paragraph 2. You agreed to abide by HOA decisions." Before Emily could argue, her neighbor Rachel jogged over, clad in a matching teal workout set, her ponytail bouncing with every step. "Isn't this exciting, Emily? Linda says we're getting cameras and everything." "Cameras?" Emily's blood ran cold. Her home office window faced this exact corner of her yard where she kept equipment no one could know about. She forced her voice to stay calm. "What kind of cameras?" "State-of-the-art surveillance," Linda said, her tone dripping with pride. "The board's committed to protecting property values." Emily took a step back, her mind racing. Her cover as a freelance data analyst was airtighter, so she'd thought. For 6 years, she'd worked remotely for the National Security Agency, intercepting and decoding foreign transmissions from the safety of her unassuming suburban home. The office upstairs housed a secure server, a satellite uplink, and classified documents that would land her in a black site if they were ever exposed. And now, the HOA was planting a surveillance hub right outside her window. "This is trespassing," she said, her voice firm despite the panic clawing at her chest. "I want these people off my property." Linda's smile tightened. "Paul," she called, summoning Emily's next-door neighbor, a wiry man who spent hours in his yard with binoculars, claiming to birdwatch. Paul materialized at Linda's side, his usual affable grin replaced by a steely edge. "MS. Carter seems unclear on the HOA's authority," Linda said sweetly. "Perhaps you could clarify?" Paul stepped closer, lowering his voice to a near whisper. "Listen, Emily, this doesn't have to get messy. We've noticed things are late-night lights. That satellite dish you call a weather station, the unmarked van that lingers down the street every few weeks. The board has questions. A chill snaked down Emily's spine. Her support team used that van for discreet check-ins. If they'd been spotted, her cover was thinner than she'd realized. I work odd hours, she said, sticking to her script. Tech consulting. You know how it is. Of course, Paul replied, his smile as cold as his tone. And those weekend book club guests who never carry books? Also tech-related. The cement mixer roared to life, drowning out her chance to respond. Workers framed out a structure that looked less like a security booth and more like a fortified bunker, small, windowless, with reinforced walls. Emily retreated to her house, locking the door behind her as her secure phone buzzed in her desk drawer. She fished it out, hands shaking, and read the message. Cover potentially compromised. Maintain position. Assess threat. Through the kitchen window, she watched the workers pour concrete over what looked like embedded signal equipment antennas and wiring disappearing beneath the gray sludge. This wasn't about neighborhood safety. She grabbed her binoculars and zeroed in on Linda's blueprints, spread across the hood of her SUV. The plans revealed a comms array buried in the foundation, designed to intercept transmissions. Her doorbell rang, jolting her so hard the binoculars clattered to the floor. Linda stood on the porch, holding a formal notice. Just a courtesy, she said, handing it over. Construction will take 2 weeks. We'll need daily access to your property, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. This isn't legal, Emily said, scanning the paper. I'm calling my lawyer. Linda's mask slipped, her eyes glinting with something dangerous. I wouldn't. Digging too deep can be risky, especially for someone with secrets. She turned away, and Emily caught Paul snapping photos of her windows from across the street. That night, she swept her house for bugs, finding 4. One in the Lee VY-ing room lamp, one behind the bathroom mirror, one in her office vent, and one taped under her desk, sophisticated to VYCS, foreign-made, not standard NSA issue. Her phone buzzed again. Surveillance confirmed. Maintain cover. Backup alerted. 5 days later, the concrete monstrosity stood completely squat, gray box with narrow slits for windows and a steel door, eating up a quarter of her yard. Cameras sprouted from its roof, all angled toward her house. Emily kept up her routine coffee on the porch, fake work calls while documenting everything. Linda stopped by, clipboard in hand. Quite an upgrade, isn't it? It blocks my VYEW and tanks my property value, Emily said evenly. But I've been digging into county building codes. Funny thing, no permits on file for this. Linda's grip tightened on her clipboard. We have special exemptions. Special enough to bypass local government? Emily raised an eyebrow. That's a neat trick. Community safety trumps bureaucracy. Linda snapped, her veneer cracking. Some neighbors have reported suspicious active VY to unusual electronics, late-night VY sighters. The kind of thing that might interest certain authorities. Before Emily could retort, her doorbell rang. A delivery man stood there with a package, his uniform crisp, but his face familiar. Agent Daniel Pierce from her support team. Sign here, he said, then whispered, surveillance team ID'd. Mixed foreign operators. Unknown affiliation. Emily signed, clutching the package, likely counter-surveillance. Harass. Linda watched with narrowed eyes. New boyfriend? Linda asked, her tone syrupy. Just a delivery, Emily replied, forcing a smile. That evening, an emergency HOA meeting convened at the community center. Emily slipped in, taking a back row seat as Linda took the podium beside Paul and 2 strangers in dark suits. Our security upgrade is nearly complete, Linda began, but we've identified unauthorized active VY ties in our midst. Photos flashed on a screen. Emily's house, her car, her check in the mail. Certain residents may not be who they claim. Emily kept her face neutral, heart pounding. She raised her hand. I've got questions about this security station. What's with the signal array in the foundation? The directional antennas? The spectrum analyzers aimed at specific homes. Linda's eyes narrowed. What equipment? I read, Emily said, smiling blandly. And I also read that our covenant requires a two-thirds vote for structures over 150 square feet. Funny, no one I've talked to got a ballot. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Paul stepped forward. MS. Carter seems awfully knowledgeable about surveillance tech for a data analyst. I'm curious, she shot back, distributing copies of County Code violation sheet filed. Like why a neighborhood watch needs military-grade comms. The suited men exchanged glances, one touching his earpiece. Linda's composure frayed. The board has special authority. Not under state law, Emily interrupted. The county, the building inspector, and the attorney general are very interested in this. The room went silent. Then the lights cut out. Chaos erupted, shouts, shuffling feet. A hand gripped Emily's arm. Come with me if you want to live, hissed a voice her neighbor Greg, a quiet retiree she'd barely noticed. He dragged her toward the exit, a Glock in his hand. Your cover's blown. They've called in a cleanup crew. Who are you? She demanded as they burst into the night. Same agency, different DVY Shaun, Greg said tersely. That concrete box. It's a signal interceptor targeting our ops in Europe. Move. Linda's voice echoed behind them. Stop them. National security. As Greg shoved Emily into a black sedan. Tires squealed as they peeled out, the neighborhood fading into darkness. 3 weeks later, Emily stood in her kitchen, staring at the garden shed that now concealed the dismantled interceptor. The HOA ring Linda, Paul, and their foreign handlers have been rolled up, traded back in a quiet deal for intel. Director Margaret Hayes arrived unannounced, her presence filling the room. Brilliant cover. Using an HOA, she said. Who'd suspect? What about Linda? Emily asked. High-level operative. She's spilling everything. Hayes paused. Your cover's intact. You're still the quirky analyst who lost a fight with the HOA. But I want you running counterintelligence from here. This house is now a station. The doorbell rang. Sarah, her only normal-seeming neighbor, stood there with a basket and papers. HOA's electing a new president tomorrow. I nominated you. Me? Emily laughed. After they trashed my yard? That's why, Sarah said earnestly. We need someone to stop this nonsense. Hayes smirked as Emily signed the form. First rule, no more concrete disasters. As Sarah left, Emily wondered, was she just a neighbor or another player in this endless game? The tulips might never grow back, but the secrets buried in Pinewood Estates were far from dead. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.